Hello again. In my last little video I was talking about how we're all stars of our own movie and how we also need to assume the role of director of our own movie. How we do this is by shifting our focus from our ego, which is a thought form of who we think we are, shifting our focus onto the spiritual being that has to assume the role of director within the movie that we find ourselves starring in, at this time on planet Earth. And so we need to acknowledge what our ego is and how our personality is directed by our ego, how most people's personality is directed by our ego, and how we need to focus not on our ego, but focus on our spiritual selves. And then we can assume the role of the director of our movie. We can see the big picture. We can see how the star of the movie interacts with the other people in the movie, family, friends, anybody that we meet, the natural environment, the urban environment, how we interact and how we fit in to the movie. And the director can then observe our own behavior, the behavior of our own personality, and correct it where the energy flow, the plot, is not flowing nicely. And I need to emphasize how wonderful our lives become when we shift our focus from our thought form ego into our spiritual form, our spiritual self, and how wonderful our lives become. And this is very important. I'm still just as idealistic as I was when I was a young man, probably more so. And I want to help change the world. And it's kind of a paradox, because change comes not by forcing change, which is what the ego does, and by saying, oh, I think this is the right way to do it, and you should do this. That actually entrenches the status quo. If you tell somebody that the way they're doing something is not right, and they should do it the way you think it should be done, they will only become more entrenched, and you will actually be preventing change. So paradoxically, you cause change to happen by not trying to change things. You actually relax, you sit back, and you watch how things happen, and you encourage people. You don't try to force them to change, and the energy flows freely without perturbance, without causing waves, and like a river, it'll flow faster the less disturbance there is. And that's the way life is. And so if you let life flow without causing waves, and without trying to force it to go in another direction, which will cause waves, if you just let it flow, then change will happen. You are facilitating, by removing stress, by removing obstacles, by encouraging other people, you will actually be hastening and facilitating the changes that human society, has to make at this time, because we are in a period of immense change, rapid change. Some people will say we're moving from the Piscean age to the Aquarian age. The Judeo-Christian religions talk about the return of the Messiah. The Hindu religion talks about the end of the Kali Yuga, and the Buddhists talk about the reappearance of the Maitreya. All these are, if you like, spiritual interpretations, or rather intellectual interpretations of spiritual changes and spiritual initiation that I feel is happening right now, during my lifetime. which is such an honor. These changes are happening. They will not happen overnight on a human time scale. We're not here for very long. But these wonderful changes are happening on this planet, and our duty is to facilitate the changes, these wonderful changes that are happening, to facilitate the harmonious changes that are required at this time. And these changes will happen, and they will happen either unharmoniously, if we do not understand, if we do not live by the spiritual laws that govern reality, that are the foundation of, that underlie everything in the physical world, is underlain by spiritual principles. Every action is an equal and opposite reaction. Karma is action. Let's not make waves. Let the energy flow freely. Get out of your ego. Refocus on the spiritual self, and the spiritual self intuitively, instinctively understands and operates within the laws, spiritual laws that govern reality. This is what we have to do. And it's not, there are many ways to do this. Some people seek teachers, some people become monks or join ashrams or undertake programs of strict spiritual practices, as they're called. Meditation is a wonderful tool, yoga, it doesn't matter, there are way more than I can talk about or even have knowledge of. It doesn't matter what you do. And this is one of the reasons I'm on YouTube, because I'm an ordinary person. I work in construction. I don't do any overt spiritual practices. My meditation is I go out on a beautiful racing bike and pretend I'm Lance Armstrong for about an hour and 10 minutes every day that I can, and that gets me in the zone, and it's just wonderful. All the stresses, everything. I stop thinking. I exert so much energy by trying to be an athlete that a lot of my monkey mind that is chattering away all day long in most of us, most of the time, shuts down. And of course that is what meditation does. And there are various other practices. So what I'm saying is you can be an ordinary person, which is how I consider myself, doing ordinary things. It's not what you do, it's how you do it. And the important thing is, whatever you do it for love. Do it for the right reasons. Do it with love. And I'm not obviously talking of personal love, I'm talking of unconditional, universal love. The kind of love that Buddha or Jesus or Allah or any of these, I hesitate to bring religion into it, because I think unfortunately the original teachings of many of the prophets that founded these religions has become distorted over the years. But the basic teachings of all these prophets and wise men of the past and the present are all refer to the same thing, and that is, we have to manifest unconditional, universal love in everything we do. And this takes practice. This definitely takes practice. And this is what we're here for. And you cannot do this if you're focused in your ego, and so many of us are trapped in our ego. I mean, I'm able to talk about this because I'm an ordinary person with a relatively ordinary ego, and fortunately I received instruction fairly early in my life that I understood intuitively, that said, get out of your ego and focus on the spiritual life. And I decided when I was quite young that this is what I was going to do, and see where it took me. And I've had such a wonderful life. I've avoided a lot of stress, or at least haven't had a lot of stress. And I love everybody. But I'm an ordinary person. I work in construction. I'm a construction worker, everything's great. I realize I'm very lucky. I live in a beautiful part of the world where prosperity is overdone. I'm disturbed by the standard of living of the part of society that I live in, actually, because consumerism is rampant here and around me. And that, if you like, is a manifestation again of the ego. We've conditioned ourselves into thinking, our egos have conditioned ourselves into thinking that the more stuff we have, the newer the stuff we have, the happier we'll be. And of course, that's not true. And people now are fortunately realizing this. And more people are moving in the right direction and realizing that we have to focus on unconditional love, unconditional respect for everything, and we have to help each other without judgment. And if we do that, we will make these changes into what will be, if you like, a time of great joy and happiness and fulfillment for everybody on the planet. And the inequalities that are manifest in our society now will become diminished and hopefully eventually disappear altogether. So please remember who you are. You're a spiritual being. Manifest unconditional love for everybody you see and you meet. And if you see people making mistakes or doing silly things or cutting you off while you're driving, don't hate them. If you have to feel an emotion towards them, feel sorry for them, because they are doing things that, although at first sight they might be done to hurt you, they're not hurting you if you don't let them. They're hurting themselves, because every action you take is part of who you are. You can't get away with anything. Just because nobody sees you doing something doesn't alter the truth. So live according to the spiritual laws. Live according to the truth and manifest unconditional love in everything you do. And that's more than enough to go on with. Okay, I love you guys. Bye.